Welcome to Her Imprint, part of the Impressions Exchange. I'm Denise Gustafson, your host. This podcast celebrates the remarkable women who are transforming the printing industry. We'll explore their journeys, from challenges to triumphs, and share the stories that leave a lasting imprint. Today, I have with me Kimberly Daniel. She's Vice President of Sales with Phase 3. So, Kimberly, welcome.
Thank you, Denise. Thanks for having me.
Such a pleasure to have you on board. To get us started, can you tell us a little bit about Phase 3 and about what you're doing there currently?
Absolutely. I'm the Vice President of Sales at Phase 3 Marketing and Communications. We are a full service agency. So we're a little bit uniquely positioned where on the front end, we have those traditional agency services, PR, strategy, creative, web design, development, all those fun, creative front of house, all the way through into print production, small format, large format, wide format, print and finishing, as well as warehousing and logistics. So a lot of really great service offerings. We call it ideation to execution.
Very cool. I've actually never heard that kind of thing, the ideation, because that's where all that brainstorming and all the ideas come from. And what is it like for your clients to really be able to have that kind of a relationship with you guys?
I think it's mutually beneficial in a really powerful way. When we first got started, we were digital print and graphic design all day, every day. And as we started to get to know our clients better, that's when they start giving you the real scoop, where they say a lot of things like, that'd be great if I could get my digital guy to do it. Or, yeah, but it's never going to match what I have to put on social media. All those kind of issues with juggling a lot of different vendors, losing time, losing money. So our ownership's vision kind of shifted or evolved in a way where he was like, what if we could be that one-stop shop where we are the digital person, we are the social media person? So that is where a lot of that changed. We actually grew by strategic acquisition, bringing in all those front end services, matching it with our print production services and expanding that as well. So now it's really great because we can walk into any conversation and really right match the solution with their unique problem. Instead of having to juggle 8 different vendors, we can really be that one-stop solution for our clients, which is so powerful for them. It's really empowering for us. It's my favorite thing to do because I can sell you exactly what you need versus being limited to the one solution that we sell. We really can be that matchmaker for our client.
And it's funny, probably some of those comments or the issues that they have are probably like those throwaway comments that
Yep.
they don't think that you're going to ever help them with, but they're like, if only it's that pie in the sky kind of thing, but they never even anticipate that you could be able to fix that.
It's interesting because a lot of times it's a passing comment or they think that it's a problem very unique to them when really we were hearing a lot of the same things from a lot of our clients where there are just way too many cooks in the kitchen and you do lose a lot of time. It does eat up a lot of budget. So having one person be able to step in, we have the relationship. I get to know you really well. I get to know the ins and outs of your business. And then regardless of where this goes, maybe it starts as a small format marketing collateral distribution conversation. And then it turns into a larger, we need a complete rebrand. That's the greatest thing. And I already know you. I already know what your needs are. I already know what your biggest fears are because we've already been working together. And now I just get to pull in additional parts of the team. So to me, that is the greatest position to be able to sell.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, then you're talking about stickiness with a client. They're going to stay with you because you've helped them solve so many of their issues that they were struggling with. They have no reason to go anywhere else.
Exactly.
So, how did you get started in this industry?
I'm going to be completely honest. It was really random. And at first, when I was thinking about having this conversation, I was like, man, I really wish I had this really compelling story to explain how I got into the print world. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, I feel like it's almost more inspiring to hear that I didn't necessarily feel pulled into print. I didn't have a secret passion. I was in IT recruiting and quickly realized that it was not a great fit for me. It didn't feel like the right outlet. It didn't really play to my strength. So then a job opened up at Phase 3. I interviewed for it. I knew absolutely nothing about print. If you had asked me what digital printing was, I could not have answered it. My knowledge of print went to how I printed my resume out for that interview that day. And then I took the job as an entry-level sales rep, and I absolutely fell in love with the industry. And I've been with Phase 3 for a little over 12 years, and I'm still learning something new about print every single week. So I found it by chance and I've stayed because I think it's an incredible industry that provides so many solutions.
That's interesting. So IT recruiting. What did you go to school for that got you into IT recruiting in the first place?
Psychology.
Okay. So again, not a direct line there either.
Not at all. No, I really love talking to people. I love people. I love the way that our brains work. So psychology was a natural pull to me. And when I was in college, I had every plan of staying in school. I wanted to get my PhD. I loved the idea of being a marriage and family counselor. And then as you start actually doing it, you realize that's a whole lot of time and a whole lot of money. So I was like, why don't I graduate, work for a few years? If I still feel pulled to go back and get a higher degree, I can absolutely do that. Actually got hired to be an IT recruiter at a career fair my junior year of college. So far before I really think I even wrapped my head around what that was or what I would be doing, entered into that. And at the time was like, this makes sense. I went to school to understand people. And here I am matchmaking people to the job that they need. So for a minute, it felt really good. And I loved getting to talk to people. But long term, I didn't see the growth opportunity. I didn't really see it fitting and really being a fulfilling role for me. And then I moved over to phase 3. Gonna be honest, didn't necessarily see this being the long-term thing that stuck either, but it sounded like a really great opportunity to learn. I always have that student mentality. I just love to learn, love to dig into things that I'm not familiar with. And I think that is what has caused me to stay is there's always something evolving. Technology is always changing, and it just feels like something different every single day, which is very exciting.
Yeah, I can only imagine what your everyday is like. It has to be so different.
Yeah.
What was it about print that gave you that aha moment that this might be your place?
I think there's a piece of me that really loves like the underdog or the thing that's a little misunderstood or maybe a little misrepresented. And I never learned about print. I never heard about print. It was never a topic in college. It's like you hear about all these cool advertising agencies and marketing firms, all these really sexy jobs. I was never a part of a sexy conversation about print. And then I come to phase 3 and I'm looking at the equipment and I'm looking at the jobs that we're printing. And it's everything from a small trifold brochure to explain someone's services to a massive 20-foot trade show booth. And I'm like, wait, so you guys created that in this building? Someone entered a job and we ran it through some equipment and created this. There's something about that so exciting that I just find very compelling.
Now, for you as a woman, you're in sales and you're in the printing industry, which leans a little bit into the male dominated side.
Yep.
It always has. As a manufacturing industry, it tends to go that way. Now, for you, you've been with Phase 3, what, 12 years at this
Years.
point? So, have you seen changes within Phase 3 or even within the industry in regards to men and women?
I think that, yes, I think it has changed. I will say that I feel like I'm coming at it from a little bit of a different perspective because for whatever reason, phase 3 has always been surrounded and full of very talented, very intelligent women. So the recruiter that hired me was a woman. My boss is a woman. My boss's boss is a woman. The print production facility I'm sitting at, our VP of this facility is a woman. So I've always been very fortunate to be surrounded by women in this job at Phase 3. I will say that I think there was a bit of a misconception, I think, in my mind, because again, I knew absolutely nothing about print. When you think of manufacturing, when you think of print, I'm thinking heavy, dirty, industrial. And with it being 2025, print looks incredibly different than how it used to. If you go to the offset days looking at digital now, we're talking about really complex robotics and computers and beautiful equipment. And so I think that as we have more visibility into other industries and we're able to take a peek behind the curtain at other companies and we really get a better idea of what day to day looks like in different industries, I think you see that print is very cutting edge. It's very exciting. Everything that you use and touch has probably been printed at some point. So I think there's just a little bit more awareness. And I think that awareness makes it seem more approachable to women who maybe had a misconception about what it would look like to work within print. So I think that always helps. And I think too, just as technology evolves and becomes a little bit savvier and a little bit more complex, I think that naturally attracts women. And I think that in what was a somewhat male dominated industry, I think they see the appeal for women as well and are like, actually, that would be a great thing to have a woman's perspective on this. So I think that just through growth and the ability to see, take a peek behind the curtain, we're naturally attracting more women to the field.
And honestly, your point of view coming into the industry, it's not surprising. So many people, male or female, that I talk to, especially outside the industry, they're like, "Oh, print? Why would you wanna do that? Why would you wanna go into that?" Having conversations with people about what print is and actually showing them, not even in a shop, just outside of what they touch day to day, what they see day to day, what they encounter day to day, it starts the little gears turning in their
Yep.
head as to, "Oh, it's everywhere."
And I think I'm sure you hear it all the time, but I know I heard it all the time. Print is dead. And
Mhm.
I think, again, going back to my previous comment of like always wanting to root for that underdog, I just wanted to be like, no, that's not true. Print is not dead. And I'm going to show every single person I meet with how print is not dead or dying. And I think there is a lot of misunderstandings and it's very fun. One of my favorite things about touching print is onboarding new clients. And most of the time they want to come see one of our print facilities. I sit in our Atlanta office, so I often give tours of our Atlanta production facility and seeing that light bulb moment where they
Mhm.
walk in and they start touching and seeing the equipment and seeing the different types of jobs we're running, they finally have that moment where they're like, oh man, this is everywhere, or this is really cool, or I had no idea that's how this was done. That is one of my favorite parts of my job is really just seeing that light bulb turn on where they finally realize the power that print has.
I have to agree. My husband's an accountant, so for him, no access to print. I mean, he prints, but he doesn't think of it. Since we've been married, he's actually gone to some of the trade shows, he's seen the equipment. He will now tell other people, "Did you realize that was printed on an inkjet print?" And it's amuses me greatly, but
Yep.
he now has an appreciation for print that he never had before, and
I love that.
I think it's amazing. But now the question is, how do we get that same appreciation into others in the industry? There's only so many people that we can talk to personally and encourage and show them. How do we do a better job of having that conversation with people outside the industry? Because, like you said, we're now doing robotics, we now have IT, it's very data heavy, not something we had 10 years ago.
Yep. I think it's a lot of conversations just like this. I think it's not shying away from a fun educational conversation about what print is. I think sometimes and I think it's subconscious, I don't think a lot of people do it intentionally, but when you think your job isn't cool or you're in an industry that's not exciting, you're not going to be the first one to speak up at a happy hour. So I think some of that is making sure that the people that are touching print and the people that are having conversations about print, that they understand firsthand how cool this is, how cool their job is, how cool print as a whole is, so that when we're having conversations, it does feel like we're passionate. It does feel like we're exciting because we are excited about it. So I think it's having the mindset that we work in a very cool industry in a very cool emerging field, and then not shying away from those conversations and talking about it, asking if someone understands how this got on their table, asking if they understand how this was installed. I think it's just being proud of what you do and being really open to having conversations about it. And slowly people become engaged. They mention a fact that they've heard over a drink or over a dinner. They start looking into things and it'll take a while, but I think the first thing starts with conversations just like this.
And I think what you said is key about pride. Pride in being part of something that's larger than yourself, to be able to
Yep.
see things that you're creating. You think that what you do sometimes doesn't make an impact. We all work in vacuums in some cases. So to be able to see, "Oh, I worked on that. I helped with this project, that project," to show that pride and then to share that definitely is a way to help us encourage people to take a look at print. It's not your grandmother's industry, it's not your grandfather's industry. It is very different from what it was years ago.
Yep. And I'm very hit or miss on social media. Not a huge fan, but I do think social media helps a lot too, where we get to show those cool snippets of the really cool trimming equipment, of the really cool UV printer, of an install of graphics going up, of asphalt art being installed outside. I think we're able to give these really cool glimpses into print and what that actually looks like. And it's 10 seconds, it's 20 seconds long, it has cool music behind it. And all of a sudden people are like, oh, wait, that's print. So I think that's also been a fun addition that when I first started, I certainly was not snapping photos at install and taking pictures of things coming off the press. But now I always think to do that because I know it's going to get someone's attention. Someone's not going to be aware of that equipment or that process. They're not going to understand when you drive by a really beautiful outdoor mural, you may not realize that's rough wall adhesive vinyl and what that looks like. I do think that there's a lot more outlet for those conversations and those visuals, which also helps drive the conversation.
And I think in some ways like that, those videos and those images help to like that wow factor or that awe
Yes.
factor. I know some people have gotten school groups have come in and they actually see and that amazement that you see on kids' faces when they realize that, oh, you press this and you do this and it comes off and then it just we need more of that in our adult life, I think. That awe and that amazement of what really can be accomplished.
I mean, who doesn't want to make something
I
from
know.
the first memories we have are about wanting to make something and create something. And I think a lot of times when you think of a creative outlet, you're so quickly pushed into being a straight up artist or a graphic designer. And those are incredible. But not everyone has that brain or that talent. I certainly don't. So knowing that there is a very cool outlet for that creative part of my brain that wants to make something, it may not look the way that I necessarily thought it would, but it's pretty cool getting to create stuff with print.
Definitely. Now, one thing I want to go back to that you said about phase 3 and the fact that you have so many women that you work
Mhm.
with, peers, and also
Mhm.
that you report to. How important was it for you to have women in those positions in the C-suite, in some of those director level positions for you as you were starting out? Because you said you just started out as a sales associate.
I think it's really important. I think that seeing someone that looks like you in a position that you would like to get to is a very important thing to have. And fortunately, I've had that my entire time at phase 3. We've always had women in leadership. I work with a lot of women. I have women on my team. So I think it's really important to see it. I say that, but I don't ever want it to be a limiting conversation where if you're looking into a company, if you're looking into a job and you don't see women in leadership, I don't want that to be a point of discouragement where you're like, maybe that's not for me. I think look at that as an opportunity to be the first and start changing that conversation. But I will say it was very nice stepping into a company that already understands and values women in the print industry and seeing what my path to growth could look like. It's been very empowering and it is very important to me to be able to have such close relationships with my bosses, my mentors, and the fact that they're female and I get to converse with them on that level and really see eye to eye in that way is absolutely incredible.
Which is phenomenal. Now, for you, you've had many different positions as you've
Mm.
grown at phase 3. How do you measure your success? And has that measurement changed for you over the years?
Absolutely. That's a great question. As a sales rep, I wanted to learn everything I could learn. I wanted to be able to walk into any meeting and I wanted to have the answers. I wanted to be the person that you could ask and you'd get a really strong answer from. So I did a ton of research and learning. I wanted to be a sponge in the print world. I wanted to learn everything there was to learn. And ultimately, I wanted to be able to do that so I could sell a lot of things because as a salesperson, that's what we're all there to do. So really my first goals were learning the industry, learning how to sell, learning how to build those relationships so that I can walk into a room and be consultative. I'm not just an order taker. I'm really absorbing the conversation and really helping find a solution. As I got older, as I worked longer in the industry, I started realizing that there is a really big, I think, misconception about print, but also sales. I think that sales has a little bit of a negative connotation. And there's just this little piece of me that was like, no, change the conversation. Sales is incredibly empowering. Everyone is a salesperson. You just either get paid for it or you don't. So I think as I started learning more and developing a passion not only for print, but selling, it really made me realize that I think my goal is moving into management, that I think I would really like to start shaping those conversations and empowering whether it's someone that's been in the industry a long time or wants to get into the industry, how fun it is to sell, how empowering it is to sell. So about 7 or 8 years into being a sales rep, I transitioned over onto the management side, which has been the most fulfilling shift I've ever made. I absolutely love it. I love being in management. Now my goals are completely different because I want to make sure that the people on my team feel the same passion that I feel every day for selling and that they feel that print is just as cool as I think it is. And if they're not excited about their job, what can I do to change that? What perspective shift? Do they need to learn more about print so that they feel as on fire about it as I do? So now my goal as a manager is really just to try and uplift and inspire and motivate. I think that sales is such an incredible career path that gets a bad rap. And I think print is very underrepresented in the list of very cool jobs to have. So I think I'm on this mission to make it enticing and make it exciting and really just make sure that the people that are doing sales that fail phase three really feel passionate about what they're doing every day.
And in some ways, you're also offering mentorship to some of the folks now. You're in a position that you can do that because you are in management. How important was it for you personally to maybe have a mentor or to have those continued learning opportunities for yourself to continue your own growth?
I think it's really important. As I mentioned earlier, I very much believe in always having a student mentality. You should never feel like you know everything. You should never feel like you've learned enough. To me, the amount that we can absorb is limitless. So I think having a mentor is so important to gut check you, make sure, are you pushing yourself to be the best that you can be? Are you on the right path? Luckily, my boss, Holly, has been a mentor to me pretty much my entire time at phase three. And she is one of the people that really sat down. I remember we were at a lunch and talking about my 5-year plan. What do I have next going on? And that's when I started to open up that I'm feeling pulled in a different direction. And to be able to be vulnerable and say, I think I'm meant to be in management, and to have someone that has been in that role, has been in both roles, can look at you honestly and encourage you and coach you and say, I think you could get there. You're not there yet. Here's what you need to do. Here's what I see. That's incredible. And to be able to have those honest conversations about where you want to go, what you need to do to get there, and it was always an encouraging environment. I can't even put a dollar amount on the value that provided to have someone that is there to be an ear, to give you advice, to shoot you straight, to give you that gut check. I think everyone needs that mentor that is looking out for them and looking out for their growth. I think that's a very important first step into anyone's career.
How do we do that? How do we get that so everybody has that opportunity?
That is a great question. I think a lot of it is, again, it is so much easier now, I think, to have open conversations, to be a little bit more vulnerable, to talk a little bit more about your goals, your feelings, your emotions towards something. And I think that having that open dialogue is necessary. And I also think that allowing that mentor relationship, allowing that vulnerability, allowing that open dialogue is so important. You shouldn't want to shut down those conversations. You should be pushing to be better. You should be pushing the envelope, asking about goals, plans, what's stopping someone. So I think you have to start by having the conversations. And then as you evolve and are becoming the person that people are having that conversation with, you have to make sure that you are doing what was done before you. So are you pushing them? Are you encouraging? Do you have an open door policy? Are you allowing someone to raise their hand and question what they're doing, the way that something's been done? I think slowly, as we allow those conversations, we're setting ourselves up to have more people in leadership, more people in C-suite positions that understand the value of that dialogue, that understand the value of mentorship, how important it is to have someone work alongside you and push you to be better. I think that as we start allowing that and as it becomes more normal, podcasts are a great example. The fact that we can sit and have an open conversation about challenges, dreams, and inspirations, that's incredible. That didn't used to be a common thing. So I think we're really setting ourselves up for open conversation, which allows for mentorship, coaching, and really that development that necessarily wasn't as accessible before.
It's interesting that you say that the openness of dialogue and how important that is. But then the comment about it is years ago, there may have been a reluctance to be open, to be vulnerable, to talk about those dreams, those aspirations with your boss. Because what if that's not what they want for you? That is definitely a difference that we're starting to see. I don't know if it's just the new generations coming up are more willing to have those, in some ways, more frank conversations about really where they want to go. Is that something that you're also seeing?
I think a lot of it too is as a millennial, I feel like a lot of my fellow millennials in management feel the same. We don't want to necessarily be managed the way that we were managed. We want to be able to have that open dialogue, that open conversation. Maybe that is an emotional one. Maybe that is a vulnerable one. I think when you maybe grow up and are educated seeing it done differently and you envision, man, if I was a manager, I would have had the conversation this way. And then here I am and I am that manager and I get to have that conversation and I do get to have it my way. So I think part of it is as it's just shifting, people that feel the need and are drawn toward those conversations happen to be in positions to allow that, facilitate that, and encourage it. And then I do think younger generations are much more open. They're much more transparent and very quick to say what they want to do and what they don't want to do. And sometimes it can be a challenging conversation or maybe even a little bit off putting, but they can give you so much and you just have to figure out how to mold it and make it constructive and make it encouraging. So I do think it's shifting from both ends. And we're in this really great kind of middle ground where it is normal to sit in a one on one and have a healthy conversation about what is challenging you if you have doubts about the next 5 years. So I think it'll only continue to become more open and more communicative, but I do think it's coming from both sides.
You can only hope. Because I mean, when you think about the printing industry, it's aging. It's folks, the boomers, many of
Yep.
them have retired. Next generations are coming in. I'm Gen X. The generations are changing and how everybody addresses things are changing. But I know with some of the millennials and even some of the younger generations, being open has changed things for the better for everyone, which is just interesting. And then learning how to manage the generations and the generational shifts. That's a whole other
A whole
puzzle
other
to crack.
discussion we'll have to have.
Oh, yes, definitely. But it is interesting because in some ways we have to meet people where they are.
Yep.
And that I think is something that is much newer in terms of a concept than it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
And it's interesting too, because for as long as I can remember, I've always heard you have to meet people where they are. You always hear that. How can you meet someone where they are if they're not comfortable telling you where they are? We
Mhm.
have to create an environment that allows people to feel comfortable to say, hey, this is me. This is where I'm at. This is where I want to be. This is where I've been. We can't meet them there if we don't give them the opportunity to tell us where they are. So I think that's one of the first steps is making sure that we're all keeping that in mind that we do need to meet people where they are. Are we putting them in a position to tell us?
And also, we talk about building trust with the customers that we're dealing with. Are we also building that same trust with the people that we work with every day, our internal customers? For you, those who report up to you, do you have that same kind of relationship and that building of trust? So that way you can have those open conversations.
I try very hard. I am a very open person. I'm a very direct person, and I just don't see the benefit of communicating any other way. If I want my client to trust me, then I need to trust my client. And the fastest way to build trust is to have those conversations, whether it's a fun conversation, delivering amazing news about how everything went off without a hitch and we were on budget and we were on time and this is fantastic. But that's not the reality typically of how trust is built. It's funny, we actually had a sales meeting this morning where I was talking about this exact topic where I really don't believe you have a great relationship with a client until something goes wrong because it leads to that really honest conversation of here's what went wrong, here's what we could have done better, here's what I'm going to do to fix it, or here's how we can prevent it in the future. And by having that direct, open communication about what went wrong or what could have been done better, it allows them to reciprocate because everyone wants to reciprocate. You don't want to just be the giver, you don't want to just be the receiver. So by opening yourself up and setting kind of the tone for communication, it allows them to say, I'm so glad you bring that up because actually, and then all of a sudden you're having this very open conversation about other challenges that they've been having, maybe with another vendor or a project that we did previously that didn't go as well as maybe I thought it had, and they weren't comfortable telling me. So I do think that openness absolutely matters on the internal side as well as external. That's the only way to have real conversation. And without real conversation, what are we doing? Like, I want to solve people's problems. I want to bring solutions to the table. I can't do that if they're not really telling me what's bothering them.
Because honestly, at that point, then you are just the order taker again.
Exactly. And I did not get to where I am to be an order taker.
And honestly, that's not where anybody is going
Exactly.
to succeed. I mean, I always say people do business with people.
Yep.
There might be companies involved, but honestly, you're working one on one with a customer, a client. There's a relationship that's built there. There's the trust that you are building between them. And that's where it all is, that openness, the ability to have those conversations.
I think that's one of the most important skill sets is being able to talk to anyone, but more importantly, really being able to have hard conversations, constructive conversations. It's so important.
And that's a skill that's really tough to master, no matter which way we look at it. And especially you look at people that might be more introverted, or they might have a difficulty expressing some of those things for fear of the retaliation that you might get. So, really interesting to see where and how we can grow that. So, wrapping up, we've covered a lot today, but my favorite question is, if you were just starting out in the industry today, knowing what you know, so where you came from, what your degree in college was, how you went into recruiting, and now you're in the print industry. If you were just starting today, you were just walking in the door, what advice would you give yourself?
Go for it. Roll your sleeves up, dig in now. That biting voice in the back of your head saying you really might be onto something is right. Listen to it and just dig in, give it all you got, learn everything you can, absorb every conversation, sit in on every meeting, observe everything that you can. Just be that sponge. You're on the right track. Just dig into it. You got to go for it.
That simple.
Yep,
Kimberly, it was a pleasure chatting with you today. So thank you for spending a little bit of time with me. I really
of
enjoyed it.
course. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for joining us on this journey to celebrate and amplify the voices of women in the printing industry. If you have a story to share or know someone whose journey deserves to be highlighted, we'd love to hear from you. Together, let's continue inspiring and empowering the next generation of leaders. Until next time, keep leaving your imprint. This is Her Imprint. See you soon.